I think that I was abroad when the sequel came out.
You were abroad, hey.
She was abroad.
Hello. Do you want to play a game?
What's your favorite scary movie?
Be afraid. Be very afraid.
I see dead people.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
Here's Johnny.
The power of Christ compels you! The power of Christ compels you!
Whatever you do, don't fall asleep.
Welcome to Talking Horror with Jamie and Nikisha.
Hi, I'm Jamie.
And I'm Nikisha, and this is Talking Horror with Jamie,
And Nikisha.
where we share our love for spooky things and talk horror through the lens of human behavior. Welcome, everyone. Hello, hi, how are you? Definitely have to keep my lenses on because looking at a computer screen, I've realized that my eyes probably don't like it as much. All the blue light. Or that could just be me flipping through TikTok in the middle of the night for hours on end. That's probably what's really doing it.
Maybe
Probably
that one. Maybe that one.
It
Does
just gave me
Eliza
such
have
good
glasses in
content.
Hamilton now?
Well, Hamilton has glasses. She'll just like borrow his for a second and put them on. It'll be fine. All right, guys. Happy Hispanic Heritage Month. We are continuing on with this movie we're talking about today, which is the 2007 Spanish found footage horror film Wreck.
Woo! Or should
Super
I say
excited. Oh, yeah. That's even better.
That was good. That was really
Yeah.
good.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
Wait, listen, The Walking Dead, well, when everything lifts back up, you know, they're doing a reboot. You should just audition to be a zombie.
Oh, Nikisha, where are you in The Walking Dead?
Okay, I am on season 6, and everything is... There's something that happens in every single episode, because I think the city that they're in is called, what, Alexandria or something?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Yes, and so, well, spoilers, but it's the moment when you think that Glenn dies, but then he doesn't, and it was just a whole thing. My emotions were all over the place.
Yeah.
But
I
it's
remember
like,
that.
yeah, everybody is dying, and it's kind of like moral compass time of like, are we being good people? Are we not being good people by like killing these things? Or there are other humans that are trying to come into the Alexandria camp and are literally like just slaughtering people. But people like Marcus, the black guy with the staff, is like, I don't want to
Yeah.
kill anybody. And so he's like hiding them away. And it's like, these people just murdered your town. And you're like, I'm just gonna keep them safe. I hope they change.
So at this point in Walking Dead, are you feeling like it's repetitive? Like, are you ready for a big change? Or are you just like, because you're binging it, you're just like, let's keep going, baby?
Yeah, you know, there were some parts, I think, towards the end of season 5 that were a little bit of a lull of like, okay, like, how many times are we just going to have the same thing? There's always going to be zombies, right? And now it's a matter of like, who out of the main cast is going to die? That's going to be the big thing, right? But I will say season 6, I don't know what they put in their coffee, but they're like putting out bangers every single episode. Like, there's something that is crazy that is happening in every single one that's memorable. So right now I'm still invested. And it's so funny because this is my first time watching Wreck, and I didn't know it was zombies.
Oh, really? Oh,
really?
Cool.
So I'm very excited to talk about it because I knew it was just found footage and people were stuck in a place, but I didn't know what the situation or the circumstances were. So when I saw it was zombies, I was like, yeah, that's it. That's what I need. Just more good old zombies. So
Great.
let's get into it. Yes. So Wreck, it is directed by, and I have heard this being pronounced multiple ways. So Jaume or Yalma Balaguero and Paco Plaza, and it stars Manuela Velasco, who actually won an award for this role, and it is the Goya, which I didn't realize is the Spain equivalent to an Oscar.
Yeah.
for
That's
this
crazy,
role.
right?
That's so wild. Yes.
I know.
And so, I mean, that's just amazing that a horror film like this, a short hour and 13-minute horror film, and she won an award for it. But I mean, she was fantastic in it. So she won an award for that. Give her props, everyone. You should watch it, obviously, just for her. So heavy spoilers, even though we've already like spoiled some things. This is zombie related for Rec. And Jamie, list us off those trigger warnings.
Yeah, it's a brains zombie flick. So if you don't like zombie stuff, this is probably not for you. Another major, but not like, I mean, maybe not a trigger per se, but I think just like a general warning going into this film if you decide to watch it. It is a like shaky cam film. So if that gives you motion sickness or like makes you ill when you watch that type of content, it is very shaky. So do with that what you will. There are naturally lots of insides on the outside. You know, zombies be zombin'.
Zombies be zombin'. Yes.
Yeah, you know, what can you do? And then there also is religious references at the end of this film as a heads up. So if you've seen the English language remake Quarantine, they change like a major element that focuses more on like possession and religion as opposed to the English language remake.
Wait, Quarantine was the remake of
is
what?
A shot for shot English language remake of Rec.
Wow.
But they changed the ending.
But they changed like what caused the virus. I do want to talk about it when we get into it because I have feelings and thoughts. So
okay,
if you allow me one parlor talk.
Oh, for sure. I'm excited to hear it. I literally just realized, okay, you said, sorry, what was the name of the movie that you just said that was
Quarantine.
the English remake? Quarantine. Okay, I got that confused with Contagion or Contagious.
Oh,
that
yeah.
movie.
Okay,
So
gotcha.
when you said that, I was like, wait a minute, because I definitely watched like Contagious during the pandemic when the pandemic first came out.
Yeah, that's, you're talking about the one with the Steven Soderbergh movie with Gwyneth Paltrow and like Lawrence Fishburne and stuff like that, and Kate Winslet. Yeah,
and it's like a monkey virus or something. But Contagion. Yeah. That's what I thought in my head when you said Quarantine.
We also watched that during the pandemic, and that was just like, what a mistake.
But the thing is like Netflix knew what they were doing, because when you open Netflix, that was the first movie that came up of like, watch Contagion, and everyone's like doesn't know about how dire the virus is, so everyone's like, oh, look at this, look at how fake this movie, and then it's like, no, this is actually happening to us in real time. What is happening?
Yeah, thanks algorithms for the suggestion.
Ugh, crazy. Okay. Well, before we get into it, producer Brian, please give us some words.
Oh, sure. Hey, everybody. Hi, YouTube. If you're listening to us, we're on YouTube. You can check us out there. You can follow us wherever you are on social media at Talk Horror Pod. Just search that on everything from TikTok, Instagram, X/Twitter. You can find us on all those places. Subscribe to us on YouTube. That would be really great.
Click.
And I'm really excited to talk about this movie.
Fantastic. Well, I do have to tell y'all that I did watch something before I watched this, and I had a friend over, and she's a Broadway person, so we were like watching Broadway documentaries and stuff, but she also knows that I'm a horror person, so she was like, oh, let's watch a horror movie. And so we're just flipping through, and of all things, we decided on Sorority Row.
Oh, yeah.
Interesting.
Right. Well, because at first she was like, oh, Hereditary's on here. I haven't watched it. And I was like, I can't watch that with you right now at 9 p.m. at night.
Yeah.
You need to watch this in the daytime. I can't do it with you right now. Especially because she was talking about something and mentioned that she doesn't like strings, and when like people are getting hurt or mutilated by strings, and I was like,
no,
well, girl, we're definitely not watching this.
Yeah.
Stay away. Oh my god.
We're not.
You saved
So
her life.
Right. So we decided on Sorority Row, and it was the first time both of us have watched it for obvious reasons. And even though you guys know that I like my crazy horror movies that don't make sense and people are being wild and ridiculous and crazy, this was almost like unbearable to watch.
It's tough.
Yeah.
It's tough. They one of the friends made on TikTok, for those of you listening on TikTok, I do lists and fun things like that. One of the friends in Sorority Row made the worst friends in horror movie list because she tells the boyfriend to like like at the beginning of Sorority Row, somebody is faking being dead, and she knows he's faking, and she whispers to the guy like that she's not, or something like that, and then the guy ends up killing her. Right? Isn't that what happens?
So they fake that somebody is. Well, spoilers for Sorority Row if anyone was planning on watching it. So the all of the girls like make this prank that this guy like killed this girl because he roofied her to do sexual relations, but then she fakes like she's actually dead, and so they're like, yeah, okay, we're gonna take her and bury her, but she's not really dead, and so he's freaking out, and so then he ends up like actually killing her. And then they throw her down a well, and then like all just try to like forget about it, and it's dumb. But her friend, what makes her one of the friends the worst is that our main protagonist has a boyfriend, and one of her friends tells the boyfriend that they really killed this girl, the sorority girl. And so like then he goes off on a killing spree so that everyone who knew that this girl was actually dead would die so that he could save his girlfriend's like future life. And so that she wouldn't have to worry about like anything. It was dumb. The whole concept was crazy.
That makes no sense.
It makes no sense. And how the acting was horrible. How they were trying to put in a whole bunch of red herrings so you didn't know like who the killer was, but it was just like not worth the watch. Not even for like maybe like a fun drinking game.
Sure.
You know, I don't even know what you could do for a drinking game for it, but I mean, you would probably get very intoxicated.
I rewatched a movie on the train this morning.
Oh.
I rewatched M. Night Shyamalan's The Village.
Okay. You watched it without me?
Oh, I didn't know I was supposed to. Not.
Jamie's hurt.
Yeah, I'm wearing the bad color right now. And Jamie's wearing the good color.
I have not seen The Village.
Okay.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I won't spoil anything. But I really liked this movie, and on rewatch, I still liked it. The flaws are still glaring. His script is very heavy-handed, as it usually is. There is a character, and actually multiple characters in this movie, that was not okay then and is not okay now.
Great.
Like real bad, like real problematic. But it's beautifully shot. The score is amazing. Everybody is 100% committed. Shyamalan may be too committed, but like the whole movie is like very committed. It's just I have a good time. The weird thing about it is that the first time you watch it, only half of the movie works until you get to the twist. Now, knowing the twist, that other part of the movie to me didn't work. Like there's a portion of this movie that doesn't work because you know the twist, and it kind of like takes the air out of a lot of tension. Whereas the so it was a weird like viewing of it, but I still really liked it despite all of its flaws. I would rather watch a unique M. Night Shyamalan movie that doesn't totally do it for me than any like cookie cutter blah horror movie.
Fair. Yeah. Is it streaming somewhere, Brian?
No, I had to rent it.
Okay. Fantastical. Well, let's get into Rec. That's why we're here. That's why you guys are listening. We need a plot summary of what happened.
What's the plot?
Our producer Brian has it, and I'm sure that he can get it in 2 minutes. It's only an hour and 13 minute.
Yeah,
that's true.
Little beep bop.
I believe in you. I bet that you're going to get it done in a minute.
Yeah, like under the 2
Okay.
minutes.
Well, I have to make up for last week's The Orphanage.
So you
That
5
was
seconds.
3 minutes. So so I have 5 seconds. Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Producer Brian, you have been tasked. Do you want to play a game? You have to give us the plot summary in 2 minutes. Are you ready?
Yes.
All right. Ready, set, go.
Okay, so we open with a local TV show called While You're Asleep. They're filming it in Barcelona, and they are it's this woman, Angela, I think her name is in the movie. She and her cameraman are with this fire department. The fire department gets called to a apartment building, and so because there's some disturbance, so they go in and they're investigating this disturbance. Long story short, they essentially get quarantined in this building because of health reasons. But there is also a disturbance going on inside. So it's all a little weird because these two same things are happening all at once. And so everybody gets a little bit sick, and then they start turning, and essentially they turn into zombies. And basically it's a we need to try and survive situation. There's people fall from above the stairwells and down. People get their faces bitten off. They're trying to find a way out, but the health inspector won't let them out. But the health inspector comes in and explains what's happening. The dog of the little girl who was in the apartment had died at the vet and tested for something super weird, and the dog was passing it to everybody in the place. And they started turning to zombies, and it felt like a 28 Days Later Rage, that type of thing. But in the end, they make it up to the penthouse to try to escape. And what they realize is that the Catholic Church actually brought a girl who was taken over by some entity and tried to exorcise her in that house. They took some blood. The blood had mutated. And essentially what we understand is that the dog got it from this creature, and the creature was still up there and ends up pulling the reporter into the dark.
And that's the plot.
Yeah, good job.
That last minute really went by fast.
Yeah, I guess.
It's like, yeah, you gotta get to the Catholic Church.
Yes.
And all the exorcist stuff, which was really crazy. I'm interested to hear you guys take on all of that. So let's get into it with our first segment of likes and gripes.
And now our likes and gripes.
I'll start, since this is the first time that I saw this.
I'm excited.
And I had questions, but I think, Brian, you answered it in your plot summary, but I'll probably ask it again just for clarification. So I absolutely enjoy found footage films. Like Jamie said in the trigger warnings, it's very shaky. So at some moments it was very chaotic with all of the shaking of the camera, but that's not a gripe. I think that it added to the energy and of the piece, and because everything was chaotic, because you don't know exactly, they don't know what's happening, and the audience doesn't know what's happening, and the camera's shaking, so we really can't even see what's happening. So like, even though they as a collective don't know information, the audience also doesn't know information, but also can't see everything that's happening. So I think that that's a very interesting thing to have, the audience just being completely in the dark with everything and trying to figure it out.
I like that too, Nikisha. I like that this movie never forgets the perspective in which it's telling the story from. And I will say that, like, one of my gripes turned into a like, and I'll get to that when I get to mine, but that's because of the exact feature of this movie that you just mentioned. Yeah.
And I enjoy the simplicity of it just being a TV news show, and they're just going to observe like an occupation for the day. It's like, okay, what do we have on the list today? It's like, oh, okay, we're firefighters. Like, that could be interesting, but we'll see what happens. And but then it goes from 0 to 100 so quickly. Like, there was one moment I paused Oh, it was the moment that the fireman fell down from the stairs, and it was 20 minutes in.
Sure.
But even though this is like a short, like we said, it's only about an hour and 13 minutes, but I do like that it just gets kind of right to the point of now we are in this house, this apartment complex, and things are happening that we don't know what's happening.
Yeah.
Brian
Nikisha,
literally said that to me while we were watching the movie.
Yeah.
He was like, the pacing of this is like chef's kiss.
Yeah, this movie is maybe one of the best paced horror movies I've ever seen. Just like when it decides to take a breath and rev the engine, like it all just really works. And like Jamie said, the thing that really stands out for me was that person falling. It just felt like the trigger of a gun being pulled. Like,
yes,
and just like we just go like so fast from there. And it comes in the midst of all of them screaming. The woman's talking about her husband being outside.
Yep.
They're trying to figure out like what's behind this door. Oh, it's the tailor shop. We as an audience are kind of getting our, getting the grounds of everything, the layout, and then that happens, and like I feel like we're in the mix of that, and it was just like it's like very, very wild.
It is, because we kind of suspect that when they go and see the old woman and we see that she's kind of covered in blood and kind of just maneuvering around, not fully present in her mind, that something's going to happen. Like, we know that something's going to happen with that. So when the old woman attacks the police officer and all that stuff, is kind of like, okay, like, we don't know why that happened, but it's expected that something crazy was going to happen in that moment. But literally just everyone kind of talking all together too, and then it was just like a gunshot. It's just the body falls and you're like, wait a minute, this is insane. I also will say, sorry, go ahead. You can say something, Brian?
Oh, I have a question for you, but I'll wait till the end.
Okay. The makeup, I will always comment when there's good makeup, because the scene when they're putting the needle in the face of, I guess, the firefighter that fell from the stairwell, and the close-up on that was absolutely gorgeous. And I do like the fact that our main person, Angela, is... You kind of hate her, like you're rooting for her, but not, because she's wanting things to happen and not kind of sussing the room as to like there is imminent danger, but she's still wanting to capture and film this. And then you kind of think like, okay, what is her reasoning for doing this? Like, is it because she wants people to know like what happened so that like they could get help? Or is it just because like she knows that this is good, this is just a good documentary to have that she could probably benefit from, like, monetize wise.
So, Nikisha, one of my notes was the lead is very persistent without being annoying. Like, I never found her annoying, and there are movies where a character like that just becomes, like, cloying and a little naggy, and, like, it just... But the actress, I mean, the Goya-winning actress, like... just balances like that lead character, final girl feel, like all, and she also stands up to everybody, like even at when she's like playing with the basketball with the firefighters at the beginning, or yes, she's a little mean to the cameraman, but like they're having very different reactions to the situation, and it's clear that like the only thing that's keeping her sane during this is like that they have a job to do during it. Right. But like, I just thought that she balanced it really well. And I totally agree with you that like, you kind of don't like her in some places, but she never gets annoying, but like you're still rooting for her because like we're her.
Yes. You want her to survive the situation. I never thought like, oh, I'm so ready for somebody to like get her. And I will say, and I think I had mentioned this
like
in other,
oh God,
right,
that movie.
That I've seen the ending, her being pulled away, like on a Watch Mojo, whatever. But I didn't know that this was zombies. So like the idea of zombies, I was like, okay, now I'm like 1,000% in, because they are enclosed in this space. Nobody's letting them out, and it's zombies. So like, of course, everybody is doomed. So it's like, oh, okay, I get it. She's not going to survive. That's what happens at the end. That's the scene that I saw before.
Yeah.
So my question for you, Nikisha, before you get to like the rest of your likes and gripes is, you didn't know what this movie was about.
No.
So like when they're at the fire station in the beginning, my assumption of what you thought was going to happen was that like they'd be called to a crazy situation. But like, did you even know what this movie like? Was every twist and turn kind of like really exciting for you because like you didn't know what to expect next, or did you feel like, even though you didn't know what this was, you kind of knew what this was?
You know, no, truly, when they started biting people, I was like, oh, this is not what I thought it was going to be at all. So every moment I was just in it, because from there, it's like there was nothing that I could have thought of in my brain that was that, you know, it was them in a wacky situation that people could potentially be killed, but you know, they'll survive it and whatever. But for it to actually just be zombies, then it just heightened everything for me. And then the twist with them bringing the girl who the church was trying to have an exorcism with, and I was like, well, what? That led me to so many other questions. And I put in my notes too that creature absolutely reminded me of Barbarian.
Yeah, Jamie said the same thing. I have that in my notes that Jamie said that.
So it's
Jamie.
No,
Jamie said that, and Jamie also said, "Why is this old lady zombie like keep pulling her nightie up?"
What is she doing? Why? And just attacking people and just lifting, and then like and not dying either. I was trying to see too, like guessing, because they were shooting people or like, you know, wringing their necks and, you know, breaking their necks and stuff, and like, are they really dead? Are they not? And then that old woman comes back, and I'm like, okay, I guess there's no way to kill these people either, these things either. So like now it's double uh-oh. You can't even
Double uh-oh, folks.
Double uh-oh.
Double uh-oh. you can't get out of it. I also thought that the shot of everyone as zombies in the stairwell when they reach the penthouse and she's trying to find what key it is to open the penthouse, and then it pans over, and because the fireman that was with them for most of the time like got zombified as well, and so I thought that shot was gorgeous.
It was
just
beautiful,
all of them.
and it also made me so sad that they got him.
I know, because he's like, I'll stay back. And it's like, oh, okay, you're probably done for. That's okay. It's fine.
Oh, you watched it in Spanish with subtitles?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay. That's the way to do it. All listeners, if you're going to watch this, watch it in Spanish with English subtitles.
Yeah.
The dub sucks.
Yeah, I can't imagine what the dub was. But I will say one thing that I wish I knew more Spanish, because there's so many moments where all of them were talking at once, and I would have loved to have known like what each one was particularly saying for the situation, especially when it was when the health inspector came in and everyone's just kind of like yelling different things, but they'll only, you know, put subtitles for like the main character's lines. But I'm like, I want to know what everyone is saying, because I think it'll add like so much to it. And then my last, before I ask a question and get into gripes, I loved when the sound got distorted when they were looking for the keys.
Yeah.
I just thought that really added to the atmosphere and the spookiness of it all. I kind of didn't like the cameraman, and this is one of my gripes as far as like human behavior goes, because there was moments where it's life or death, you know. It's not okay, like keep filming, like we're doing this job. And I think it was the moment when they were trying to close like the big gate to the big door to the workshop.
Yeah.
And he's just standing there filming, and the one guy is trying to do it, and then Angela's trying to help him, and it's like, cameraman, get in there and like help. Why are you still just standing there? And so there were a couple of those moments after that too, where I kind of was like, dude, it's time to stop film. I know this is a found footage and like you got to have the shots for this, but that moment in particular, I was like, put the camera down, let it just be on the door, and help them close the door.
Yeah. I get that. I mean, like you said, that's the leap of faith of a lot of these types of movies, like the found footage. But also, I'm not saying, I think you're totally right. I do think that the script recognized that, and that's why they have Angela, like, her only lines in like the second half are like, keep filming, and then the movie ends with the, we have to tape everything, Pablo, for fuck's sake. Like, at least the movie is trying to like justify it, but like, I agree with you, like at some points it's like, put down the camera and like shank a zombie, you know what I mean?
Yeah, like help, and then you can pick it back up. But like,
Yeah.
if you see like them on the struggle bus for real, like it's your life on the line too. Like,
Yes.
help,
You, like,
help people.
I don't think I would feel good going to my grave knowing that like I was just filming everything and like didn't shank a zombie. You know what I mean?
Like at least one, you know.
Yeah, shank a zombie. At least shank one zombie.
At least that's the moral of the story. At least shank one zombie in your
Shank a
lifetime.
zombie.
My other gripe was they get infected so fast. So then why didn't the daughter get infected as fast? Then because she was sick throughout the whole like first, of the movie. And they were like, yeah, we're getting antibiotics for her, whatever. But like other people are turning in like a minute. So that was just a little bit of a like, why did it take her so long?
The health inspector makes a comment in the movie that says it affects everybody differently based on blood type.
Okay. Thank you for that.
Yeah, so that I didn't catch that the first time I saw it, but this time I did. It's when the inspector first comes in and what was he saying? It's when everything started going wrong when they were doing like surgery on them in the back, and that's when the doctor, the intern, gets bitten, and he turns like immediately.
Yeah.
And then the the health inspector says something to the effect of like, we don't know how it affects everyone differently. We're not sure. We think it's blood type.
Okay. And so obviously the girl, the barbarian looking person at the end is the creature that the church was trying to do the exorcism on.
Yes.
That's just still there. Okay. And so you said this, Brian, but I want to make sure because I was trying to like think, okay, how did everybody get infected? Because they mentioned like the dog and the saliva, and it's like, okay, well that's how the girl got sick and other people got sick. But like the patient zero is that woman, but like how did she get out to where she could have infected everybody else, I guess is my question. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. So this is how I see it. My guess is that the dog was like sniffing up by the penthouse or whatever it is, and like just like got it through the bottom of the door, and by sniffing, like I imagine a world in which everyone in this place knows each other, so like the dog kind of can like walk free in the hallway and stuff like that.
That's fair.
That's my guess. Gave it to the little girl. The little girl gave it to maybe the Colombian woman on the first floor, and there's and then it just spread that way. That would be my guess.
Okay. That was the main question. I was like, wait, how do we get here? But yeah,
and
overall,
also, oh sorry,
No, I was just gonna say overall, I really had a good time watching this. It was clear what was happening as far as just people in a peculiar situation, and then there's zombies, and so I had a really good time just watching that.
I wrote, just to clarify, I wrote down when they're taking the roll call of the apartment complex. I wrote down where everybody lives.
Yes.
So you have the lobby and the textile shop.
Yes.
Then the next floor up is the office and the Colombian woman's apartment.
Okay.
The next floor up is the old woman and the family. So the family is on the same floor as the old woman. So my guess is that the dog gave it to the girl gave it to the old woman. Maybe the old woman gave it to the Colombian woman, or vice versa. Something happened in there. Then, moving one floor up, you have the man who lived with his mother, but the mother has passed away. The one who gets trapped through the gate. Oh, the racist one.
Yes.
I mean, they were all a little racist.
Yeah.
And so it's him and the old couple.
Okay.
And then above them, it was the intern and the guy who ran the building and the Chinese family.
Mm-hmm.
And then at the top, you have the penthouse.
Gotcha. And I was wondering too, because the Chinese family had a father that was sick that they kept mentioning, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I was ready for like that person to just come out and like surprise kill somebody. He doesn't come out at all. Like they kept mentioning him so much that I thought that he would have just some kind of like
role.
Oh, they run into a room and it's like him there and he's sick, but he's a zombie and he's like comes out and attacks him. So I would have liked if that would have happened since they kept saying it a lot, but it's just emphasizing that like people in the building are sick. So like there's something going around.
And that's a really good moment where she says like my dad is sick, and then she like double back. She's like, no, like not that sick. Like he, like he's just like he's like elderly and like immobile versus like a chew. Like I thought that it was very interesting that like they took a step back. A chew.
Yes. But yeah, that's all my likes and gripes. Who would like to go next?
Jamie, go for it.
Sure. I love this movie. I first watched it when I was studying abroad in Spain.
No way. You're fancy.
Yeah, and I found it online.
You fancy.
I found it online because I think I'm trying to remember. I was trying to look up the sequel and remember the timeline. I think that I was abroad when the sequel came out.
You were abroad, hey.
She was abroad.
I was in university in Spain, and I think the sequel had come out in theaters, and I was like interested, and so I wanted to watch the first one. I watched it online, and I was like, oh my god, I love this movie. And I can't remember when Quarantine came out. Oh, like the next year. So I probably watched Quarantine around the same time too, and just was like, why does this movie exist? They didn't need to make this. Like, how annoying. I have a huge gripe against like unnecessary English language shot for shot remakes of great movies that you just have to read. Like, it's not that big of a deal.
Yes, exactly.
At all.
Just read.
God. Anyway, yeah, I also definitely had like a zombie phase. I feel like a lot of us go through a zombie phase. You know,
Currently
when all of these,
You're in your zombie era.
Yeah. But like when all of the zombie content was all coming out at the same time, it was like very exciting. And then I was like, this is too much. Now I don't care anymore. It's like oversaturated. But this really like hit that neat, I don't even know what I'm saying, but like, you know, the zombie element. I also love found footage stuff. I also love, spoilers for my suggestion, Cloverfield and like anything that's like that type of vibe. So like everything that this was giving me was really what I wanted, and it was a really compelling story. I really like, I actually like Angela, because I perceived her more as like everything was happening so quickly in the building. Like it's really interesting when you're watching like the outside stuff while they're inside. So you're seeing like the building get closed in, and you're seeing like you're hearing the announcements go, and like all of a sudden there's like a tarp around the building, but it's like, who's communicating to them that any of these things are happening? Like there didn't seem to be like, we never hear those conversations. It's like the outside already knows like as much, if not more information than like we do and the rest of the people that we're with. But I like that then it kind of shifts into this more like pseudo-political thing where it's like the people have to know what's happening here. Like, no, like it's like government conspiracy. Like, why are they locking us in here? And I kind of like that it adds that. So it's not just like you know, we're going into this spooky place and you're expecting spooky things. It's like we're doing a totally nondescript normal thing, and then like all hell breaks loose.
Yeah.
So I really like that, and I it makes her more compelling to me of like, you know, trying to blow the lid open on this whole thing.
Sure.
Kind of vibe. I love, there's so many practical effects in this movie, and something I was also remarking to Brian when I was watching it was it's really fun to watch like found footagey stuff in horror, and like doing you know, like fight scenes or like things that are happening really fast, and it's all it's all camera tricks and practical effects. And it's really like the moment that I really noticed it was I don't even know where he got the like sledgehammer thing from, but the firefighter is like staving the woman off, and he like swings something at her face, and like the camera also pivots really fast, so we don't see, you know, what happened, but like the movement plus the sound design is like so compelling, so you're really like you're following all of it, but it just makes it so much more like feral, and I kind of like that for what the vibes are given.
The camera choreography is really great in this movie.
Yeah, there was also one moment, I forgot what it was, but I just remember it was such a loud kind of explosive sound that I was like, oh my gosh, this is like visceral. I forgot what scene it was, but I just remember feeling like, oh, that was so loud.
Yeah, I forget what it was, but
Yeah.
Oh, it was the gunshot. It was the gunshot in the hallway for me the first time.
Who had Oh, yes.
When the police, when the woman comes barreling at the police officer, and then he has that like defensive reaction, and then like she couldn't believe what happened, and then he rewinds the tape so they could
so you
rewatch
watch it again.
Yeah, that whole sequence is like, because everyone has a very different reaction to something super tragic that just happened in front of all of us.
Yeah.
Like that was wild.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think the makeup is really good. All of the bites are like really disgusting and like gory, but like I'm not super into gore porn, but I don't know. This felt like an okay, tolerable amount that also was like felt very Evil Dead-y, but not too over the top.
For sure.
Yeah, like, you know, squirting blood and all of that stuff. I actually think it's better when it's like so buck wild, because that then crosses into like this isn't real, so like they're all playing with ketchup, as opposed to you know, something that's like a Hostel, where like that's not really for me. But so the last thing that I really like about this, I'll say, is and I think that what I realized like yesterday when I was Googling this movie is that this is my opinion. A lot of other people feel differently, but I like the fact that like it's possession and you know, involving the Catholic Church, but also there's something scientific to it as well. But like I feel like that kind of makes it so much better than Quarantine, where spoilers, but like it's the same movie. They basically change it so that there is no demonic element to how people are getting infected. It's super rabies.
Oh,
yeah,
it's not as fun.
It's not. I don't think it's as fun. And then I was reading that apparently the reason why they made that like fundamental story change is because people in the U.S. just have a different relationship to like the religious stuff versus Spain, which makes perfect sense because Spain is a very religious country. Like they're predominantly Roman Catholic. So like that I feel like is going to connect and land and like feel more influential potentially than like, you know, that's just not, people are holding so many different faith systems here that like it just doesn't land in the same way. But I just disagree, and I think that it totally, not to mention, obviously, I saw Wreck first, but I feel like changing that totally makes the whole thing so stupid. I just remember watching that movie and being like, this is so dumb. Super rabies? Like, that was the best you could come up with? Like, it just, it didn't resonate with me at all. And, like, I'm not, like, overly religious, but I do have an affinity for, like, demonic possessions type content. So I was like, maybe that's why, but I just think that's so much better. Plus the idea of, like, then they got out an enzyme from, like, it just, like, gets very, like, DNA chemistry at the end, and, like, I thought that was super cool. But, like, I still think that possession ending is better. So
absolutely,
that's another reason why I really like this movie.
It was like an added cherry on the top without being, like, too much.
Yeah. But yes, that was my parlor talk.
That was your parlor talk.
Come, sit, have a drink. It's parlor talk.
Yeah, and Jamie, to talk about those two endings, like, I guess what I get why they change it, but also, like, that's what makes this movie unique. Like, the idea that, like I like the idea that being possessed changes your body. Like, that was one of my problems with The Conjuring 3. We're Conjuring Again, whatever it was called. The devil made me do it.
Here we go again.
Here we go
Conjuring.
again. Yeah, The Conjuring 3. The Thronjuring. No, like, I have a hard time when, like, the demon makes your body do crazy things and, like, your, like, bones are cracking, and then, like, you get out of it and you're like, fine. It's like, no, like you probably broke both arms, you dislocated your shoulders, like, that's, like, that feels more real to me. I understand that I'm making a silly comment about, like, exorcisms, but, like, I like that this one, it's like, no, because this person was possessed, it changed their DNA, it changed that, like, their body changed. So, like, the whatever possession, demonic enzyme or whatever they pulled from it, the blood, that it mutated to be more powerful, and then it was airborne, like, and so, like, the possession and the demon aspect of it, like mutated into an airborne disease that caused, like, a zombie rage. Like, talk about, like, the best parts of The Exorcist, and 28 Days Later, like, popped it together. Like this is unique, this is clever, and it never feels like you have to think too hard. It's introduced and explained in a perfect way at the perfect time.
Yeah. Right, it's like, it's not too much. It's like, here's the information, we put some more pieces to the puzzle, and, like, that's it. Everyone is still doomed. It doesn't really, like, change anything, but it just adds to, like, our awareness of the situation even more. Yeah. Fantastic. Also, this is so random. Jamie, when you were, like, playing with ketchup, it just took me back to my childhood.
What?
Oh, no.
Because...
You okay?
No, but it's okay, you know? We all are a little mad, go a little mad sometimes. My father, the police officer that I say 80,000 times on this podcast, but he had a random thing of fake blood in, like, one of his police drawers. And I guess, I don't know what the purpose is. If you are a police officer and listen to this, like, why you would have that for, I don't know. But I always wanted to just, like, play with the fake blood, but then, like, my parents would get mad if they, like, saw me with it, and it's just like, no. But maybe that's where my horror started. But I was like, oh, this looks so cool. It's just like a little bottle of, like, actual, just, like, fake blood for whatever purpose, whatever use. But it just reminded me of that when you said playing with ketchup, because I played with fake blood as a child, and that's where my issue started.
Great. Well, we don't have to do the podcast anymore. We figured it out.
We figured it out. No, I still have more questions for Jamie. That will never stop. All right, Brian, your likes and gripes. Give it to us.
Sure. Jamie, were you finished?
Yeah.
Okay. So I love this movie. Spoiler alert, this is, like, not only is this like one of my favorite horror movies, like, might be top 10, I think that this is the best found footage horror movie.
Damn.
But, like, found footage like this, like, because I would say like Hell House LLC is just as is good, but it's a very different type. Nikisha, have you seen Hell House LLC?
I haven't.
Oh, that's what we're doing for the episode. We didn't know what we were gonna do yet.
Great.
That's what we're doing.
Yeah.
Yes, 100%. That is an underrated gem of a film. Okay, so for this one, I like that they show the outtakes at the beginning. I like that they humanize her. I like that they show you that, like, this is not live. Like, this is the raw recording without any kind of, like, with any kind of voiceover. You don't need, like, an intro card with, like, text. Like, that alone, like, explains so much. I just like the name While You're Asleep. Like, I thought that was a very cutesy, like, that felt like a very, like, Dave Attell at 1 a.m. type of show.
Why did you have to say it like that?
Because Dave Attell is like a very raspy, I'm a smoker voice.
Yes.
I like that it starts in the fire station and that, like, they weren't, like, sent to that house as journalists. Like, there are these fluff journalists who are pulled into this crazy situation. And I like that we are with them because, like I mentioned earlier, I love that we only get the same amount of information that the person holding the camera gets because that is us. And I really liked that. I thought that they executed the pure chaos of it all with the firemen, with the police officer, and the local TV crew, like, trying to figure out what's happening, but also, like, everyone has, like, this power dynamic where, like, the police think they're in charge, but the firefighters just got there, and the journalist is like, no, you can't not let me film. Like, I thought all of that was, like, really well balanced. The officer bit leading up to the falling of, so the officer killing her, the old woman, to the point where they fall from the from, like, the third story, like, this movie just, like, revs up 1,000%. And like Jamie said, it then gets to the, like, health inspector stuff, like, why are we stuck here? So you have, like, these two mysteries kind of going on side by side, and it helps to pace it really, really well, so it's not, like, monotonous all the way through. I love that everyone has a different reaction to the post-shooting, which I mentioned. Sound design. Oh, I wrote sound design loud.
Yes. So loud, but beautiful.
Yeah. I thought everyone acted like real people. They were real characters. This felt like very real people. Each individual was very, very, very natural. And quite frankly, even the racism stuff where everyone starts blaming the Chinese family felt... I forgot about that. Jamie and I talked about how we forgot about those moments, but it felt like absolutely...
Well, because I forget about unpleasant things I don't like remembering.
Right. Oh, right. You block out unpleasant things.
Always block it out. Just block it out.
I thought that was a really good moment because it rang true in the worst way possible. But my favorite thing about that moment is that when he asks him, oh, did you start filming already? And they were like, yeah. And he's like, oh. And you think he's going to say, like, I didn't mean to say that. But he goes, oh, I'm so shiny. And he starts to wipe off. Like, I loved that moment because, like, what a dirtbag.
Right. He's like, get my good side.
Exactly.
Ugh.
The practical effects. That poor woman. She just went through so much. That poor woman. All of them, actually. The mother and the older woman.
Yeah.
The little girl biting the police officer will always be wonderful to me. Yes. Just, like, leaping like a little vampire.
Even, like, she bit her mom, too, right?
Yeah, she bit her mom in the face first, and then they handcuff her.
Ugh.
And you really get invested in these people. Like, in such a short amount of time, like, I was rooting for, like, 90% of them.
Yeah.
I thought that's really impressive. And I like at the end that the tape recorder was under the papers. Like, it wasn't this obvious, like, the tape recorder's just out. I guess we'll press play. I liked that. And then I love the ending. That whole night vision sequence is just fantastic. And like you said, real barbarian vibes.
Super barbarian vibes. So good.
Gripes about this movie. There's a lot of light coming through the windows. and she says it's 2 a.m. Like in the old woman's house, like there's light streaming through the windows. So it feels like it was filmed during the day. The only thing that I can argue, like in defense of that, is that it felt like the floodlights that the cops brought with them and whatnot on the house, but it's not the same type of light. That's like a harsh, like bluer light, whereas the light shining through felt like sunlight. So that's a gripe there. There's a little part of me that thinks it's a little bit too convenient that everything lines up, that the cops are called for then the building is closed and the firemen are called for the disturbance. Like, that all just, it feels a little bit convenient. It's made less convenient when the health inspector like says like, well, we got a call about the dog, and then like it starts to spreading, so the cops and the fire, so like it makes sense. So I guess that's not a gripe as much, but I don't know. I get that feeling.
It's like, yeah, they're just there for the disturbance. Like, you call the police, they call the fire people. Like, that's, yeah.
Yeah. My only some other small gripes. The health inspector willingly takes his mask off.
Yeah,
like,
I thought that was weird.
Yeah, like I know you got to give a monologue about like what's happening here, but like the health inspector taking the mask off didn't make sense to me.
Yeah. Like, you don't know who could, like, how this thing is spreading, all this stuff, like, yeah.
And he has all this information before he gets in there, so like it's not like he was like didn't know.
Yeah.
Right.
This is cheap. But the tape recorder rewinding to the perfect places for the perfect pieces of information.
Yep.
This is like all horror movies, but like, yeah, it's a bit much.
Well, and I can I piggyback off of that, because I literally thought like she kept rewinding it, and then they play it, and it's like, okay, well, are we going to hear all the stuff that we just heard before? But then it just stops in the moment that it needs to stop, like, so that the action can continue to happen. And I'm like, okay, guys, what is this?
That doesn't take me out as much as like that's just a thing, like a horror thing.
Right? Yeah.
And then my last one is both a like and a gripe. The jump scare at the end when he goes into the attic. And he's turning around and he sees that little boy, and that jump scare gets me every single time. However, they're focused on this woman, like, who's barreling through, but there's a little boy in the attic still. Like, what are you doing? Who is this little boy?
That was what I was gonna say about my gripe. Like, I don't know who he is.
He's just there.
Yeah, they never mention anything about him.
I don't know if he's in the second one. I don't remember. But that one felt weird. That felt super weird. That like they just kind of forgot about that one to use it just for the jump scare. Unless I totally didn't see it right, and like that was actually the girl, but I don't think so. I think it was two different people.
It looked like a little boy.
Yeah, he may have been another part of the experiment. Who knows? I don't know. But like whatever the case may be. But yeah, I love this movie. The first time Jamie and I watched it. First time I watched it with Jamie, who had seen it multiple times. As soon as it was over, we watched Rec 2. And Rec 2 is really good too.
Okay.
And
how many are there?
4.
Okay.
So Rec 1 is this one. Rec 2 takes place immediately after this one.
Oh, gorgeous.
So it's a continuation of the movie. Rec 3 is totally separate. It takes place at a wedding, Jamie? I've never seen it.
I think so. It's also not directed by this director. This director did 1, 2, and 4.
Okay.
But it was one of the directors did 3, the other one did 4.
Well, oh really? Oh, right, because they didn't co-direct it.
Yeah. And then the 4th one is a sequel to the second one. And I think some of the wedding guests who survive are in the 4th one.
Nice. I have to check it out then. I didn't realize there were 4 of them.
Mm-hmm.
We would highly recommend them to you.
Oh, hey, oh,
Thank you.
Alrighty, anyone else have anything to add for the likes and gripes before we move on?
No?
Alrighty, let's get into some brains.
Brains.
brains, so many body parts, so many
So little time.
So little time. Okay. My first question, Jamie, is what do you think it is about human nature in particular that makes us want to get close to danger, all for the sake of maybe just entertainment or money or like recognition? I'm just thinking of like Angela and the cameraman just putting, I mean, they didn't choose to be in that situation. They didn't like go out and say like, this is what we're going to film. But just to be in that situation, right, and still like want to press forward in filming this, like, what is it about us that just wants to put us close to that danger?
Yeah, that's super interesting. Like, I mean, I think you named some of the things. Like, there is something to like influence and fame potentially that like is very appealing. Like power, like, but yeah, like I think some people also want to like any kind of why can't I think of the word, like not high stakes, but like the things that give you an adrenaline rush kind of thing. Like I think sometimes people seek that, like thrill seekers maybe is what I mean. That like I think sometimes there's something to like overcoming it or being like fearless in the face of those types of activities, that like goes against our very own alarm bells that are like, this is dangerous, don't do this. That it's like, I want to overcome it, like I'm stronger than these things. That I think sometimes can be a motivating factor. I don't know for her if it was about, maybe in the beginning it was about fame, but then I think it kind of shifted into like, you know, if we don't survive this, then at least there's some kind of record of this, and like there's information sharing. Again, like similarly to what I think people who really like true crime, like there's a thrill, but there's also like a protective factor of like, you know, I want to survive this if I was ever in this situation kind of thing.
Right. Yes.
So,
yeah,
I think those are some explanations perhaps.
Right. Yeah, I just can only think of too, like the feeling of maybe trying to feel invincible. And I think you said something like that too, just like thrill seekers wanting to kind of test the limits of like your humanness, and like that being something that kind of sparks, you know, something within you. But still, it's such a wild thing for people to put. I mean, if you want to skydive and do all the things, like, because that gives you whatever, you know, great. Because there's some people who would do that, but not want to watch like a horror movie or like you said, listen to true crime.
Sure.
Yeah. So it's just kind of like pick your poison in that avenue of like what you feel is testing the limits or that safe danger that we like always like to discuss.
Yeah.
Fantastic. My next question is, if you are in a situation that has the potential to be life-threatening, do you have like any kind of thing that you would say to maybe your clients of a way to like calm yourself down in those moments so that you can kind of get back to center and rationalize the situation without, you know, maybe diving into kind of hysteria, because there's some people who react to all these this news coming in like in different ways in this movie. So zombies aside, if there was a situation that could potentially be kind of life-threatening, but you don't know, like, do you have any kind of like calming mechanisms or things or tools that you would tell someone?
Yeah, and like that's also, you know, keeping in mind if something is like actually life-threatening like that, like we might go into fight or flight, and so like our immediate reaction to something might also make it a lot harder to use a particular coping skill, because like we don't always control our automatic response to danger. But I mean, I think, you know, in a truly life-threatening situation, focusing on like your body in that moment as one grounding tool because like when we're feeling super distressed or like overwhelmed or like something is happening, like our heart starts racing, we start sweating profusely, we might get like a stomach ache, like all these things are happening as like automatic responses in our body, our nervous system. But I think paying attention to that and like focusing on like, you know, deep breaths in that moment, or even like physically grounding yourself, like planting your feet on the ground, like, you know, talking to yourself like through a situation like that like actual self-talk can be really helpful in like kind of refocusing on things to bring you back to like the here and now. Those might be some exercises. I mean, even like some helpful imagery, like positive imagery, if there's like kind of a safe place that you can go to in your mind and like visualizing that. But again, I think like there are sometimes just situations where it is a lot harder to use our regular coping skills, that they're just like a lot harder to access. We might not remember them at all, or we might try them and they might have like a very different effect than what we're expecting. So like important to keep that in mind, that it doesn't work 100% of the time. And it works better the more you practice it, especially in moments of like calm. Like when you're not in a life-threatening situation, practice coping skills so that they're more effective in those moments, or you're more likely to do them in those moments.
Yeah. Here's a question. Is there a way to change what your natural fight or flight response is? Because then that just had me thinking about like...
Good question.
When you said...
Good question.
Yeah,
Good question.
It all came from what you were saying. You're giving good information. Because then you were talking about like the practice of it all, and it is different when the stakes are different, and it reminds me of like people who are in like the army or military or law enforcement, and they have to kind of train in those high stakes situations, and so what their normal fight or flight might have been sans training like is different after the fact. So I guess like if you're not in one of those things, like as a normal regular person, like could you change your fight or flight response,
like,
or learn, I guess?
I don't actually know, but that example made me think of like, do we potentially like reduce the risk of us having that response of being caught off guard if we like almost like desensitizing ourselves if we're doing something, or like we build up an experience of something, does that like reduce our likelihood of having a particular response or even change that response? I don't know, but I do think that there's value in like within limits. But like, I imagine that that's part of it too, is to, especially for the jobs that you were describing, or like more high risk jobs where like your life is on the line, that practicing these things helps people build confidence in themselves to navigate them and navigate them more safely.
Right.
So I think that is like a big part of potentially making it less likely for folks to like get jump scared in real life and like caught off guard and things like that.
All I'm hearing is like, go through haunted houses, build up your fight or flight. So
that's also what I heard.
Hey, I did that with watching spooky movies, and you could be just like me too. If you have to write a college essay about watching scary movies.
That's the best part of that story.
Yes.
By far.
Absolutely. Okay, fantastic. That's all I have for brains. Should we rotten tomatin?
It's the Rotten Tomatoes game.
Yeah, let's Rotten Tomatin this bad boy.
Rotten Tomatin.
Check yourself before you wreck yourself.
Whoa.
You're welcome.
Don't get begooled.
Also,
get begooled.
This is like a random question, but would it also be interesting to like start reflecting on letterboxed scores, and in addition potentially to Rotten Tomatin? Because I feel like there's value in getting more just like regular like people watching a movie's opinion.
I'm interested. I like
Yeah.
that. Yeah. All right.
Do it to it.
Cool. So, what do you think this has on Rotten Tomatoes?
I'm gonna say 86.
I'm gonna say 98.
This has a 90% on Rotten Tomatoes with 41 reviews. Plunging viewers into the nightmarish hellscape of an apartment complex under siege, Wreck proves that found footage can still be used as an effective delivery mechanism for sparse economic horror.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the audience score is an 82%.
They didn't want to read.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, that's exactly right. Cool.
Same.
Now, if we look at the letterbox score, this movie has an average. So, what do you think this movie has on Letterboxd? Between 0 and 5, what do you think the star average is?
4.
I'm gonna say
Well, I'm
3
sticking
based on the Rotten Tomato.
You can also do like points, decimal points.
3.5.
Jamie,
I'll stay with my 4.
3.7.
Damn.
3.7.
There's no like general consensus for that, right?
What do you mean, general consensus?
On Letterboxd.
I'm just looking at all of all the people who have rated the movie with stars. It averaged at 3.7 stars.
But there's no like description of like this is what the people thought.
Yeah.
No, you have to go into all
Each
24K
individual
reviews.
review.
Yeah,
Okay, well,
there's
we
no
don't do that.
overall review. No. Cool. All right. So should we dive into the 4 S's?
Yes.
Skull, scare, shakes, and suggestions. The Talking Horror's 4 S's.
This
Well, do
movie is going to go through our 4 S's, which are skulls, scares, shakes, and suggestions. Skulls are how this movie handles mental health and human behavior. Scares is how scary was it, and shakes is how much you can remember this. Is it a one and done? Can you shake it off or not? Nikisha, let's start with you. This was your first time.
Yeah. Skulls. I'm changing my scores as I'm talking to you.
Yeah.
Sorry, not sorry. Skulls, I'm gonna give this a 7 because I feel like the people were peopling. I just really was annoyed at that cameraman, but like suspending my disbelief. Great. 5 for scares. It was that drop from the stairwell, the makeup, the first bite from the old lady with the cop, and you just see like her pulling away the skin as she's biting. So yeah, a 5 for me. And then shakes, I'm gonna give this a 7 as well. Very memorable. I want to watch the second one. This is definitely in my top 3 of found footage, horror found footage movies.
What are the other 2?
Those are my suggestions, Brian.
Oh.
Save them for later.
Jamie?
So for Skulls, I gave this a 6. Like kind of feeling similarly to Nikisha. I think mostly peopling, but like a few haphazard decisions, especially when you do have a found footage where you're at some point you're like, why are you actually recording this?
Sure.
As much as I love them. For scares, I gave this a 5. I still got jump scared. I've seen this movie so many times, and I still got jump scared this watch. It's so effective, and again, like the sound design really just gets you every time.
Yeah.
Every time.
And then for shakes, I'm giving this an 8. I'm very fond of this movie. I watched it at a really important time in my life as I was like growing up and being in college. So it just really
When you were abroad.
She was abroad.
It just really informed my like horror movie identity. So
Cool.
So yeah, it gets an 8.
Skulls, I gave this an 8. I just they're all peopling, and I'm like really it just made me buy into it more. Scares, I gave it a 6 because it still scared me. The same jump scares got me, and then for shakes, I'm giving this a 10. This is great. Like, you don't get better than this. It's short, it's effective, it's scary, it's interesting, it's unique. Like, I'll watch this a million times over. So yeah, this is a 10 for me. Nikisha, I want to hear what your other two favorite found footage are. So what is it?
Okay, so ever since we did this on the podcast, I'm like, wow, this is such an incredible movie, and it's the Behind the Mask, the Leslie Vernon, found footage documentary thing. Because it was
That's
just
a great one.
So unexpected how it was gonna go and how it ends, and I just think about that movie often. I need to like just go ahead and buy it on. So that's number one. And then for a close second, like Wreck is also second, is our girl Deb Logan, because that one is just
Debbie.
It's I like the I think the scares and the gore and the insides on the outsides in Deb Logan got me more than Wreck. I know it's a different thing, but every time I watch Deb Logan, I'm just so unsettled, like her ripping her arm stuff off. Every time. So they're in a close second for found footage.
Great. Jamie.
Sure. I spoiled one of mine earlier, Cloverfield. I just feel like the kind of whipped camera and energy and like choreography. I think, Brian, you called it before.
Camera choreo. 5, 6, 7, 8. Shoot.
Every so often we just like do that like in our house.
It's great.
It's so fun. And then another one that I think, like when you were talking about favorite like found footage type stuff, for me I would say Grave Encounters. I loved that movie. It was a good time. I haven't seen that one.
Oh, we can't forget we're going to do Hell House LLC.
We're definitely doing Hell House LLC.
So good.
And that's one of my top 3 favorite found footage movies. So that's one of my suggestions. Another great found footage movie that we did on the podcast is As Above, So Below.
So good.
But I would really highly recommend Rec 2. Like, if this is a 10 for me, that's an 8. Like it's really good. It follows like literally the second that this one ends, that one picks up. Like it's from the perspective of a SWAT team going in. It's awesome. It's awesome. So
do they find the camera?
I'm not saying anything.
Okay. I'll watch it.
Cool. Awesome.
Fantastic. Okay, well, I think that wraps up our episode of Wreck. Not Shrek, but Wreck.
We were supposed to watch Shrek this week.
That's why I wore green.
Oh. You better check yourself before you Shrek yourself.
Shrek yourself, exactly. You can follow us on all the social medias: TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, Threads, and Brian's Letterboxd, but at a different name. Ours, Talk Horror Pod, POD.
Yeah, Letterboxd is BP527.
Yes.
And if you play Pokemon Go, let us know. We want your trainer code so we can be friends.
Fantastic.
Oh man, that's all we've been doing.
I know.
That's wonderful.
That's why we haven't watched more horror movies, because we're outside like trying to catch Pikachus.
Gotta catch them all.
Yeah, that's right.
That's the
You gotta catch them all.
Yes. Gotta catch 'em up.
But you can find us wherever you get podcasts. So like Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Rate and review us there. 5 stars, please.
And thank you. I don't know how to end. Maybe Jamie should give that creepy like noise that you did earlier, the zombie noise.
We have to tape everything, Pablo, for fuck's sake.
Gorgeous.
I think the combo of the two really...
It solidified it. It was great. Yes, I like it. I like it a lot. Thanks, guys.
Bye.